This is a question about students with disabilities. Students with disabilities are one of the lowest performing student groups as indicated by achievement data and are often subjected to bullying, harassment, and exclusionary practices, compounded by the lack of staffing and over 60 vacancies for educators for their students. How will you ensure success for all students by making decisions that fulfill legal mandates and also align district systems and resources? Additionally, what will you do to ensure that students are educated in welcoming and inclusive classroom and school environments where their educational needs are met? And for this one, I'm going to start with Lefteris.
At my school, we basically had this philosophy where all children are important, but then also all children are special. So every children has their unique talents, their strengths, their weaknesses. So that's what we taught to. And as much as possible, if there were children with special needs, we try to integrate them into the regular classrooms so as not to bring too much attention to their differences. Having said that, we did have students that maybe needed special seating areas or maybe extra attention, and another staff member, special supplies, and we did do that. But at the same time, we made sure the other children knew what was going on. You know, we introduced the children to each other, so everyone was familiar, and we were as supportive as possible for all of our children. And again, if they were special needs children and needed some extra care or attention, we did provide that, and did our best to make sure there was no bullying or any type of negative behavior toward that child. So that's how I would handle it in the public school systems. Thank you.
Special ed in general is really important. I had a chance, I mentioned earlier, I've been to a lot of schools. I actually sat in on many of the classes and observed. And one thing that's really important is we need both, right? We do need, I would say, smaller classes, special programs, well-trained special ed teachers, specifically for students that they learn in a different way. I think that's important, but I think it's also important to Lefteris's point is that there are opportunities for all of our students to interact together, because if the goal is, according to, I love your mission, right? In terms of the outcome rather is to have well-rounded, well-educated young adults, right? At the end of the day, that's what we're striving for in the school system. Then, I'm a big believer that you can do both, that you can still have specialty programs, well-trained special ed teachers, programs that are specific and customized for the needs of the child, but also give the child the access to be with everyone else, because I think social interaction is very important. I think to offer both of those things are critical. The other piece I do want to speak to is around harassment, bullying, violence, discrimination, just in general at public schools here in San Francisco. That still is a big problem. I think it was maybe a couple of days ago, Virginia and I were at, I think, MLK, right, middle school. Hopefully I'm remembering correctly, the event that we had. And it was really interesting because they were doing a civics presentation. So all the 8th graders had set up their little booths and so forth. So I went around the whole area and asked the kids, like, what if I was on the board, what would you like me to fix? And I want to say 9 times out of 10, the biggest issue was safety. And I asked them, well, what do you mean by safety? So they told me there's still fighting, there's violence, there's still a lot of bullying, harassment. And so it is a real thing that's happening in our schools. And that's not okay, because we want our kids to be safe, that feel safe, to actually be well educated in the environment, both within school as well as an immediate perimeter around school. And I do think that is something we as a board, right, need to address and make sure that every school is safe so that our kids can actually learn. So I think just in general, I think that's a very important topic.
To me, equity is excellent. So if we are planning for those who are furthest from opportunity, I believe that everybody can benefit, and we can't skimp on our children's education. As a parent, I would never try to skimp on my kiddos' education, and I want that for all of our kiddos. And coming from early childhood development and early education, I, looked at all the studies that shows that if you invest early in early interventions, as early as possible, every dollar spent in the first 5 years is anywhere from 10 to 20 times in savings over the lifetime of that person in public services. So I think it was a travesty that we were trying to cut funding from our special education. That should be the highest priority because those kids have nowhere to go, and we are driving our families out of the school district and out of the city. And if we invest early, we can have long-term savings, and we can save in special education if we provide those early interventions as soon as possible. So I believe that we have to serve our kids well. We have to prioritize excellence. And I think, the budget can take care of itself. And I think the problem with our budget is not that we can't provide excellence, it's that we're spending it in the wrong places and not being accountable, not holding contractors accountable to actually delivering what they're supposed to be delivering. So I think, unfortunately, our expenditures haven't been around equity and excellence. Our expenses have been around poor operations.